He was laughing like it was the most normal thing in the world. He paused, swallowing hard. I didn't know how to leave, and that was the point. Once you're in, you're in. Will continued, his voice steady but hollow. A few days after the party, I got a call. Blocked number. All the voice said was, "Hope you had fun, Fresh Prince." Then they hung up. He thought it was just a weird prank, until an envelope arrived at his office. It was unmarked. Inside was a flash drive. I almost didn't look, but I did. It was footage from that night of me sitting on a couch, clearly out of it. I don't remember being that out of it, but there I was, laughing at something I couldn't even remember. There was a voice behind the camera, Diddy's voice, saying, "That's how we keep 'em." Will testified that the fear he felt in that moment was unlike anything he'd ever experienced. I realized I wasn't invited to that party. I was initiated. He said that's when the manipulation began. I'd get invites to more parties. I declined. Then suddenly, movie roles I was in talks for? Gone. People I worked with for years stopped calling. Rumors started online that I was gay, that I was unstable, that I was cheating. I knew what it was. It was pressure. Diddy didn't need to say it. He just made it clear that silence was the cost of peace. And so, for years, Will said nothing. He smiled through interviews, brushed off rumors, focused on work. But every time I saw a news story about someone else speaking out, Cassie, Don Richard, even Meek Mill's name being dragged into this, I thought, if they're speaking, why am I still quiet? He looked around the courtroom. Diddy didn't just ruin people's careers. He made them fear telling the truth. And that, Will said, was what finally brought him to court. Will paused, glanced at the jury, and leaned closer to the mic. It wasn't just a video. That was the leash. He said from that moment on, everything he did felt like it had strings attached to it. He explained that calls would come through his agent, invitations to events, meeting, projects. When he said no, things would shift behind the scenes. I'd say no to a Diddy event, and the next week I'd find out a greenlit project suddenly wasn't greenlit anymore. He said this didn't happen once or twice. It became a pattern. Diddy didn't have to threaten people. He had systems that did it for him. PR people, bloggers, producers. He knew who to call. He knew how to make problems appear out of thin air and how to make opportunities vanish just as fast. Will testified about one specific instance in 2013 when he had been lined up for a major international campaign with a top luxury brand. We were in final negotiation. I'd already shot the first lookbook. Then, out of nowhere, they dropped me. I never got a reason. But 2 weeks later, I was invited to another Diddy event. When I declined again, the phone calls started. Rumor, gossip blogs, posting stories about me that were oddly specific. Stuff only someone with access could have planted. He said it was psychological warfare. You start to feel like you're crazy, like you're paranoid. But then you see it, the patterns, the punishments. You realize you're not imagining it. You're being boxed in. Will told the court he knew other celebrities going through similar things. Some of them are sitting silent right now. Some of them have contracts that won't let them speak. Some of them are scared they'll be exposed the same way. Then he turned toward Diddy and said plainly, "You didn't just collect people, you controlled them." And everyone knew exactly what he meant. Will didn't stop at the manipulation. He explained how Diddy's grip wasn't just over artists, it stretched into Hollywood's entire foundation. You couldn't walk onto a major stage without brushing shoulders with someone he helped put there. Will said he once attended a charity gala in 2016, where, behind the scenes, high-powered figures from music, film, politics, and tech were all thanking Puff as if he was the glue holding the whole thing together. I watched one executive from a streaming platform hand him a USB drive and whisper, "Only you have the final cut." Will didn't say what was on the drive, but he said it confirmed what he'd feared. Diddy wasn't just networking, he was gatekeeping. He described moments where he saw other actors, rappers, and public figures behave oddly submissive around Diddy, like they were trying to stay in his good graces, laughing too hard, deferring to him in every conversation. I realized a lot of people weren't his friends. They were his survivors. Will testified that one reason he stayed silent so long was because he thought speaking out would blackball him permanently. But then I realized I'd already been blackballed, quietly. No official blacklist, just whispers, doubt, and doors closing. He said the only reason he stayed relevant at all was because his audience, the public, wouldn't let him disappear. That's the part Puff didn't control, the people. He explained how, over time, he began to see things differently.